This is the Burdick Lexus and Burdick BMW postgame show.
Welcome in on the postgame show. The Orange have dropped their fourth straight game, and it was another ugly one. Syracuse hung around, and then the wheels really came off there in the late stages of the second half. Never really felt like they were going to truly threaten to win tonight. They got it close at points, couldn't get over the hump, never had the lead. And Quadir Copeland gets his revenge game. Quadir Copeland gets all of his wishes, and it was a easy victory in the end for NC State and Will Wade, their first-year head coach, and another frustrating and demoralizing loss for Syracuse basketball. Got to see Calvin Russell score his first bucket at the end of the game. That was about the only positive in the second half, and Syracuse continues to really struggle on both ends of the court at the minute. Offensively, it feels like they're getting good enough looks to shoot it a little bit better than they are, but they're also still making the head-scratching turnovers. They're missing bunnies. They're missing open threes. They're settling for bad shots, some possessions. It just does not look like there's much flow or much of an identity on the offensive end. And defensively, they tried to work in some zone. I know a lot of you have been advocating for zone. It didn't feel like, as I said in the pregame, this was the right team to zone against. It didn't feel like it worked tonight. Red Autry tried some different stuff, did not play Akir Soiree again in this game until the very end, I guess, and made the rotation a little bit slimmer, but J.J. Starling had a really rough first half and a little bit into the second half. He got it going a little bit in the second half, but in general, just not enough from the Orange again, and it feels like the way this team was playing in non-conference play is so far removed from where they are right now. This is a really struggling basketball team at the minute, a team that is just seen their confidence shaken, and they're having a tough time going out there and putting together a good product. And it is frustrating to watch, and I'm sure a lot of you are very frustrated to have to sit and watch this right now. And we know NC State's a good team, but Syracuse is still just doing some dumb things that a team this talented should not be doing right now. And they're on a 4-game losing skid. They will host Notre Dame on Saturday at home, and that is a game they basically must win to avoid what would inevitably be a 7-game losing skid if they lose that game, I would say, because it's at UNC and at Virginia next week, and a whole bunch of very tough games the rest of the way. 315-437-7644. That is our Massage MV hotline if you'd like to call in for ESPN 44. We've already got 2 of you on the phone line, so let's go right there. Let's start out with Jordan in New York. Hey, Jordan.
Hey, Tim. How you doing?
Just another lovely post-game show here. Tough to watch this team right now. How are you doing, Jordan?
Very frustrated.
Yeah.
I've been calling it a bunch this season, so happy that you're taking over. Just pathetic, in my opinion. They can't play second halves.
Yeah. It's the last 4 games, and it's so inevitable, right? It feels like they hang around in the first half, and we just know that there's no reason for optimism in the second half right now. It feels like that second half collapse is going to come at some point, and it's really tough because it's following a similar script game in and game out, and I just don't know what has happened to the defense in particular. I really thought that they were at least going to hang their hat on defense throughout the entire season, or at least that would be a side of the ball that we could say, hey, they improved a lot. They worked hard on that. They got more out of the defense, and NC State goes for 88 points. Some of those are style points late, but that just can't happen.
Yeah. No, it cannot. The defense was a huge problem. The pick and roll defense is the worst defense that I've seen from them this year. How do you let Darian Williams, I hope I'm saying his name right, shoot 9 threes and make 5 of them? One time off a pick and roll, one guy goes down. How does Autry not say, get up in his face? He's going to shoot.
Yeah, their pick and roll defense was really suspect tonight. I agree with you. And it wasn't like NC State was running anything elaborate on offense. I didn't like when Syracuse went to their zone defense, but maybe that was Autry's thinking, was we could not stop them in the pick and roll, and then you're getting away from that when you go to a zone look defensively. They really did struggle with the switching, the communication in the pick and roll defense, and that has not necessarily been a theme or an issue this season. So I'm with you there. That was concerning, especially when you consider William Kyle should be about as switchable as you want on a high pick and roll or a high ball screen, and they just didn't seem like they were organized in some of the pick and roll sets tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, it was bad. The other thing is Nate George.
Yeah.
It's really getting out of hand at this point. He leads the ACC in assists, or he was ACC leader last year, I think it was.
Yeah, 6.5 assists per game.
Yeah. 3 assists, 2 turnovers.
God, it felt like he had 4 or 5 turnovers. I can't believe it's 2. You're right. I'm looking at the stat sheet, but it just felt like he had a couple head-scratching plays. He's missing bunnies in transition. He just seems indecisive to me right now. So I'm with you, Jordan. It's head-scratching with George, and that's really frustrating because obviously they were counting on him to be a big add in the portal, and there was a lot of optimism that he would be. And that has been a big swing and a miss right now, what they're getting out of the point guard position.
12 shots is abysmal. 12. Why is he taking 12 shots? That is Nate Kings, Cayenne, and Tyler Betsy all together. Tyler Betsy should be playing more.
Betsy didn't do a whole lot tonight. I was advocating in the pregame to see him play more, and I said basically what happened, give Suarez minutes all to Betsy. Betsy struggled defensively. I thought it was weird at times that they had Copeland on him. We got more callers to get to, Jordan, but I do appreciate you checking in. We'll keep the phone calls coming. That was Jordan in New York. Let's go to Matt in East Syracuse, and we can continue the conversation on Syracuse basketball here on our Burdick postgame show, on our Massage MV hotline as well. If you'd like to call in, 315-437-7644. Matt, what is on your mind?
Hey, Tim, how are we doing?
Doing all right. How you doing?
I got a couple things to say. How many times are they going to get a second chance rebound and score?
Well, the zone, they could not get a rebound in the zone tonight, especially. And you're right about the rebounding. 45 boards for NC State, 33 for Syracuse, and both teams did have 15 offensive rebounds. It felt like NC State was making a habit of getting extra opportunities, especially when they were going to zone.
Yeah.
But not to cut you off. Go ahead.
No. And then, if it wasn't for Donnie Freeman, this would have been a 35-point game, But I don't get Autry leaving George in for that long when he's struggling that bad. Because he wasn't just missing shots. He was turning the ball over, throwing it out of bounds.
I guess let's play it out. Like, at what point of the game did you really want him taken out? Because one thing I think Red could be better at is having a little bit of faith. Like, J.J. Starling picks up his second foul in the first half. To me, if it's Donnie Freeman picking up a second foul, then maybe you could go to the bench. But that's a guard. J.J. Starling's been on your team for 3 straight years. We know, we've seen every J.J. game. I don't remember really on one hand we could count how many times he's truly been in foul trouble in the last 3 years. So I think you got to trust a senior. He picks up his second foul. Like, don't get so worried about the foul trouble, because we saw that in a previous game where it was George and Starling, and they went to Bryce Zephyr, and he actually played some good minutes, but he gets really worried when a guard picks up their second foul. It's one thing if it's a front court player, but it's a guard.
Yeah, and Cloutier came out, with his tail lit on fire.
Yeah.
And you could just tell. He was ready to go tonight. 19 points, I think he had.
Yeah.
He looked a lot better than he did at Syracuse, I'll say that. Those 3 years or 2 years he's been gone, he looks like a whole new player.
Yeah, he does. 19 points, 9 assists. Syracuse as a team had 10 assists tonight, and he had 9 himself. NC State, very good passing team. They had a lot of good assist numbers throughout the year. They had 21 assists tonight, and they just dominated this game. When you look at the box score, it felt inevitable that they were going to pull away in the second half, and they did that. So, anything else, Matt?
One more thing. I want to talk about the zone real quick.
Yeah.
Okay. I know a couple games ago we were talking about Autry not switching to zone against Virginia Tech. You know, I'm glad he did it, but that's not the zone I'm used to seeing. I mean, they were getting the ball inside. You know, how many times were they throwing it inside to the paint? Easy buckets.
Yeah, and I felt like Copeland was a good guy to put in the high post, and he's a good distributor, and he seemed to sort of relish that role because I'm sure he understands the zone well. So I did not like the zone tonight. I never felt confident when they went to it. There have been times where I've been complimentary of them going to the zone. I just didn't think it was a good game to do it. And I understand why Red likes to mix it up. Like, in general, I agree with his philosophy. I just thought this was a game where he could have scrapped it. And not only did it feel like NC State was getting good looks against the zone, it just felt inevitable they were going to get the rebound, too, which is really concerning. So,
yeah.
All right, Matt, good stuff. That's Matt in East Syracuse. We'll keep the phone calls coming. You can chime in at 315-437-7644 for ESPN 44. Let's go to Watkins Glen, where we've got Dave on the line. Hey, Dave.
Hey, buddy. Listen, don't let him on the bus tonight. Don't let him come back.
Tarmac game for Red, you're saying.
You leave him in North Carolina, and you tell him, take an Uber. Walk back. I don't give a rat's ass. But you're not coming back to Syracuse tonight. You poisoned us enough. You've ruined this team. All this talent. No more, Red. We know that you played for us. We know that you held Jimmy's balls for a couple of years. But listen, he's not coming back. And you know what? If he does come back, we have a plan, my friend. My buddy Kevin are going to take a ride to Syracuse tomorrow with my son David. He's a junior in high school. He can take the time off. He's got his homework done. And what we're going to do is we're going to go find Red. And we're going to spank his butt cheeks until he's ashamed enough to leave.
That was something. I don't remember Dave and Watkins Glen calling in. I was just going to let him vent until that got a little odd there at the end. So I just hope that his junior in high school, his son is focused on his studies, and that's a big year. Junior year is a very important year to get to college, so let's not take your son out of school to try and track down Red. I understand that a lot of you feel like this is rock bottom, this is the end, leave Red on the tarmac, all of that stuff. To that, I would say they're not going to fire him now. They're not going to fire him mid-season. That doesn't happen, and it shouldn't happen. And I've made that point, and a lot of you disagree. But if you want to call in and you want to have a conversation on why they should fire him now, I would be happy to do that. I'd be happy to hash it out with you. I just think that there's no good alternative. There's no good interim head coach. It would only make problems worse, and I think Red is owed the end of the season. I think it's something to be said for if you're Syracuse and you give him the rest of the season, then another coach has a little bit more respect. If you're trying to truly hire a good coach and you want him to come in, you don't want to send the message that, hey, we'll quit on you in the middle of the season. That's not a good look for that next head coach. Let's go to Jim in Pennsylvania, who I know is a sane caller and is someone that we hear from a lot, and I love hearing from Jim. Jim, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tim. I'd say how are you, but it seems like it's I don't know. It seems pointless to say that at the moment.
You never know what you're going to get on live radio, Jim, and you especially don't know what you're going to get after the way the team has been playing in this 4-game losing streak. So we're going to get some more weird callers, I'm sure, before the end of the night.
Yikes. I hope the authorities don't need to visit some of these folks, but threats are definitely not good. Hey, so just a couple of things. Certainly not on here to do this, and certainly Red doesn't need me to defend him, but just from a reality standpoint at where we are, and I don't know that it was ever this bad for any of those guys, but with Red being one of our own and how bad this has gone for him, it's not like this is unprecedented. Keep in mind, 2 of the greatest Mount Rushmore players in the history of the Big East Chris Mullen and Pat Ewing did not exactly tear up as head coaches when they took over their alma maters, right? That was not a good run for either of them. So, then there was Matt Doherty at North Carolina. He was part of a national championship team as a player, but, man, things did not go well for him as a player. So Red's not alone in where this seems to be going, or where it has gone, not seems to be going. Clearly before Red took over, the program was going in the wrong direction, and I say that with all due respect, obviously, to our great former Hall of Fame. Those are just facts. I'm not making it up.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, we went from years of always being in the tournament to always being on the bubble to then kind of turning to always not even being in the bubble conversation. And I said this last week. I think obviously with Paulie and Steve. This is my entertainment in the wintertime. I watch Syracuse basketball to entertain, and the product is not entertaining. And it's more painful when money's being paid to kids, and whether it's the kids' fault because it seems almost fraudulent with what they were doing elsewhere, and then took money and came here, and it's not not working out. I'm not saying that, you know what I mean, just in terms of that's how it feels. Or bad decisions were made on kids, and even stuff we're talking about early in the season of and who's going to be an NBA player, and it's like, for God's sakes, there's none out there. I don't care how good some of them are, and in my opinion, you can't be doing the stuff they're doing. And how can we even have a team where, again, in all honesty, we're putting pressure on people to be future Hall of Famers, but we have forwards who aren't really threats, because if they go to the basket and don't score and get fouled, they shoot Shaq-like from the foul line when they line up there. And again, with all due respect, I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but I think, everybody knows what I'm talking about and mentioning these things. So anyway, the last thing I would say is I don't think we can play this game of the people that are talking about, it's ridiculous, they're not going to fire Red in the middle of the season. They're going to name one of these assistants, the head coach, give me a break, like that'll make it better. That's ridiculous. This punitive stuff is ridiculous. But the idea of whether we're going, to Jerry or Matt Lengel, I mean, it is time, I think, for everyone's sanity and health to clean house. And find somebody as much as I can't stand it. I'm not talking about that's who we're getting. I'm saying somebody the other day sent me the video of when Danny Hurley took over at UConn, and they had their slide, and after kind of the run they had, and he was talking about things were terrible for those first 2 or 3 seasons, and he said, "Get us now, because it's not going to stay this way." And he figured it out. And so we need somebody to come in from outside like he did, from a different school, no connections, and just start over and maybe give everybody a breath of fresh air and just see if we can turn this tide back towards what we used to be.
Yeah, really well said, Jim. I promised that Jim was a sane caller, and he delivered there. Always appreciate Jim in Pennsylvania's thoughts. We do have to work in a timeout. We'll get to Mark and Jake on the line as soon as we can. And if you'd like to call in, we do have one spot available right now at 315-437-7644. We can get back to more of your comments on the Massage MV hotline. The Orange falling in Raleigh 88-68 after they had won 3 straight at Lenovo Center. Quadir Copeland, 19 points, 9 assists in this game. Donnie Freeman, 24 and 10. J.J. Starling finishes with 17 points, but he does a whole bunch of nothing else. 0 rebounds, 0 assists in 28 minutes for Starling. And the team shoots it 39% from the floor, 35% in the second half, 18% from 3 in the second half, 2 for 11. And in the game, 30% from three-point range. That's 7 for 23. We'll hit a break. We'll get to more of your thoughts on the phone lines, and we'll continue to go all night long with you if you'd like here on our Cuse Sports Talk postgame show brought to you by Burdick. You're listening to it on ESPN Radio or watching it on CuseSportsTalk.com. Well, hello, chat. How are we? Oh, wow. Look at all you watching on YouTube. The team must suck, huh? Dan Hurley is not walking through that door. Oh, that was a good laugh, Jordan. The spanking. I was just a little scared what was going to come next after he said that. Sounds like he's into some kinky stuff. Yeah, I guess I got to track down Red tonight. Bobby Hurley will be available. Why isn't my YouTube chat popping up? Where'd it go? There's the YouTube chat. Yes, enjoy all these callers. God. If you're trying to call in right now, the lines are jammed. So just keep in mind if someone I hang up on or someone comes on and goes off, then that's your window to call back. Yeah, this is no fun, guys. It's not a whole lot of fun to watch the team, to talk about the team. It's not good. It honestly feels worse than last year now. I mean, the expectations were higher. We got a little tease that they might be good. They're not. Obviously, this is way more on coaching this year, and some of you would say, well, Tim, it was all coaching last year, too. I didn't think they had a good roster last year. I think this roster is pretty good and definitely a whole lot better than how they're playing. And that goes right on the coaching. And they know that. Yeah, there's been some tough ones lately, but it's that feeling of why turn on the game because I know what's going to happen that is really a sting right now. Really a bummer. JJ's, yeah, boy. Where do we even start? He's just not good enough for what we assume the price tag is for him right now. His shot is broken. I mean, he's going to shoot like 30% from three at the end of the year, and he only takes open ones. And they don't even look like they're thinking about going in. I mean, sometimes he makes one, and you're like, okay, more of that, please. But for the most part, it's like open for three, brick. And that's your two guard, who you're paying a lot of money, who, you know, Red really was kind of staking his career on in a way.
100.1, 1200 AM and 1440 AM. This is the Burdick Lexus and Burdick BMW postgame show.
Welcome back in on the postgame show. We're faking enthusiasm tonight after Syracuse gets blasted in the second half and another tough, demoralizing, frustrating, annoying loss for the Orange. 315-437-7644. The phone lines have been jammed since we got on the air here. Our Massage MV hotline is going crazy right now, as expected. 4 straight losses for Cuse, losing by 20 at NC State, 88-68 the final score. Syracuse was down by 4 at the half. And Syracuse played a terrible second half again. 47 points allowed to NC State in the second half. They win the second half 47-31. And we go back to the Massage MV hotline, and we go back to New York City, where we've got Mark in New York City. What's happening, Mark?
Hey, Tim, how you doing? Just wanted to call in to talk about Fran Brown going to Penn State.
Yeah.
No, totally kidding.
Thank you. I needed a joke, Mark. I needed that one. Thank you.
Needed to lighten it up. But I think I heard a quote from Autry in his, I think it was the press conference when he was dropping F-bombs and all that stuff. And
yeah.
I think he said, he quoted, we need to figure out something different. And when I watched tonight's game, nothing was different. I mean, if you're talking about doing something different, think about switching the starting lineup, thinking about, I'm just looking at Nate George's field goal percentage, 2 of 12 tonight, 4 of 11 last game, 2 of 8 the other game, 1 of 6, 2 of 9. I mean, these are just unacceptable numbers. And if you're going to talk about doing something different, I mean, maybe think about, having JJ run the point and putting Kynan into the starting lineup, or, just something different. I mean, nothing is working right now. And if we're just going to keep rolling out the same lineup, we're going to keep seeing the same results. So
if Autry wants to do anything about saving his job, you have to do something different.
I'm with you, Mark. I think that's a great point. I mean, JJ at the 1, I don't know how much better it would be, but it just doesn't feel like the backcourt is half as good as we thought they were going to be right now. I mean, I go back to some of the discussion in the preseason, and some of you are going to be like, why are we going back to that? But I think it's important to remember what were our thoughts of the team, what were our thoughts of what the team would be good at, what they would be bad at, what the individual pieces would be. And we talk so much about Nathan George and how getting him at the point guard will make JJ better because he's off ball and all of that. And I remember distinctly chatting with Seth Greenberg, who saw SU practice before the season. And Seth Greenberg, who, yes, a lot of you will be quick to point out, is a huge fan of Adrian Autry, and maybe you'd call him a defender of Adrian Autry. But regardless, Seth Greenberg knows hoops. He talks about hoops for a living now. He was a coach in the ACC. He knows what a good backcourt is. And he told me the first thing that jumped out to him watching them in practice was, wow, their backcourt's going to be a problem for the league. And, man, you watch them tonight, and the only guy who was a problem in the backcourt tonight really was Quadir Copeland. And JJ, yeah, he finishes with 17 points, but the shot is so broken. You're not even thinking of attempting mid-range shots. You're attempting threes when you're wide open, and those feel like they don't have a chance of going in for the most part. He did make 2 threes tonight. His overall stats, 17 points. That's cool, but it just doesn't feel like he is nearly as good as they need him to be right now. And then Nathan George, Mark just said the stats, 4 points, 2 for 12, 0 for 4 from 3. I can't believe they have him at 2 turnovers. I could have counted at least 4, I thought. He did play less minutes. He played 26 minutes. Red seems to have a shorter leash on him. He's just not good enough right now. And that falls on the coaching staff some, of course, because he was pretty good at Georgia Tech, and he has not been good for Syracuse. Next, we go to Jake in Syracuse. Thanks for waiting patiently, Jake. And you can call in at 315-437-7644. Jake, what is on your mind after this one?
I'm really just confused about why we're not giving Kine any minutes, and we're putting in George. He doesn't really do much. I feel like he slows the offense down, and we need that pace that Kine brings, or even JJ. I know he had a tough night, but he's more of a facilitator than George, 100%.
Well, George is a better passer, I would say, than JJ, but sure, I could get behind the idea of JJ playing some of Nathan George's minutes at the 1. Kyan, when he's out there, they seem to like him in zone. I think they're very concerned about his defense, and I did feel like he played a fair amount of minutes tonight. You look at it, 17 minutes. I don't know if maybe you could get him to 20, 22, but to me, he's still a freshman that is showing some warts when he's out there. And he's another one that, like, why when he goes to the free throw line do you feel like you're just hoping he makes 1 of 2? He's supposed to be a good shooter. Why when he's wide open for 3 is he missing them? So they need to get more out of their playmakers for sure. And I'm with you and Mark, who said earlier, we got to mix things up. I mean, we got to experiment some. It's not good enough right now. Maybe they should alter the starting lineup. I'm all for anything. Like, throw something at the wall at this point.
So you're with the Betsy minutes a little bit, or not really?
I am actually. I mean, I said that before the game, and this was not a great game for Betsy. For me to come back on here and talk positively about Betsy. But for the most part, I think their biggest issue is they don't have enough shooting. And I think Betsy gives them shooting. I just think it's a similar conversation to Kyan, where he's a pretty bad defender right now. And I think sometimes we fall in love with Betsy on offense, but we forget that when he's out there defensively, he is really struggling.
I mean, I don't know. Sadiq maybe a little bit more? Well,
Sadiq fouled out in 10 minutes. I mean, you could only play him the 10 minutes tonight. Yeah, I don't know why.
In general.
Yeah, in general, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, for the rest of the season, sure, I could get behind a little bit more Kyan minutes, a little bit more Sadiq. I could just get behind, like, Nathan George fumbles the basketball out of bounds. Let's get him out of the game. Like, let's establish that some of these head-scratching turnovers can't keep happening. And I don't know, I'm sure they're doing all they can, but I think we've said it before, Red could use the bench as a demotion a little bit more at times, specifically with George, it feels like.
So when we got the 2 bigs in and we got 3 guards. Do you think we should keep the same 3 guards? Like, I feel like Kings is good. I don't know. I feel like we should just switch up George. And Starling, I like him, but he's just so inconsistent, and I feel like he's just, I don't know, he's not in a groove right now. I feel like just maybe put Kai in and give him a little more minutes.
Yeah, JJ hasn't been good against a good defense really all year, maybe with the exception of a couple minutes at the end of the Tennessee game when you saw the leader in him and the senior and what we wanted from JJ Starling. But in general...
That's the last time I've seen the team play good.
Exactly, yeah. So I think we're on to something there. I think when you hash it out, it is sort of tough to find the right mix right now. And I think that it just doesn't feel like they have the perfect 5, but it also comes down to why are they not getting more out of Nathan George, or why are they not getting Nate Kings the ball more? Like, there's stuff that you can critique based on how they're running the offense. And I do feel like Kings in particular felt like he was heating up at the end of the first half. It just, sometimes it feels like you watch 5 minutes of the game and you almost forget Nate Kings is an option on offense. They need to give him the ball more.
It's really just George. He takes way too many shots that are unneeded.
Yeah, he does, and it's been concerning all year. All right, Jake, we got to keep it going with more callers, but we appreciate you checking in. Let's go next to DJ, who is in Clay on the Burdick Postgame Show on the Massage MV hotline, and we do have one spot available now if you'd like to call in at 315-437-7644. Hey, DJ.
Hi, Tim. How are you tonight?
Hanging in.
One thing that I've noticed about this team is just the lack of, fire in their heart. Even on the bench, the players, the coaches. Back in the Boeheim, heyday, he would bring players to the bench, sit them down, walk them all the way back to the bench and get in their face and let them know what they're doing wrong. And I know Autry's style is a little different, but it just seems like every time they're walking to the bench, it's a high five and no coaching is going on. It feels more game management.
Yeah, I think that's a little unfair. I mean, it's hard for us to fully comment on that based on the fact that we don't hear everything that Red is saying. And I think that's the type of thing that looks worse when they're struggling, and everyone's just going to show a little bit more negative body language when they're struggling. I will say I didn't feel that way about this team when they were playing well at the start of the year. I actually thought that a lot of what we were complimentary of at the start of the year was their effort, their energy, and kind of praising Red for some of the things that he got through to them in the offseason. So have they lost effort? Have they lost urgency as the season is kind of crumbling here? Yes, I think that's a little bit of human nature. And I hear you to some extent, and it feels like there should be a little bit more player leadership or a little bit more of an edge or a toughness in some spots. But I think at the end of the day, they're just not making shots. They're not getting anything to go their way, and that's just wearing on the guys.
And I agree with that. My point is, though, it just feels like they're not a team anymore. It feels like, 10 assists tonight. That feels like, okay, when we're not passing the ball, we're playing a lot of ISO ball. When we are passing the ball, we're turning it over, right? So it just doesn't feel like there's a lot of I don't know. It just doesn't feel like it's mesh, and I don't know if that starts at coaching, if that starts at personnel. I guess it's hard to tell from our end, but it just watching it feels like the team is just hasn't had any chemistry.
I agree, DJ. There was too much ISO ball tonight. We'll let DJ go and keep getting to more of your thoughts on the phone line. I mean, you just look at the shot attempts. 18 shot attempts for Freeman, 19 for Starling, 12 for George. Then the next closest was 5 for Anthony, 5 for Kings. William Kyle attempts 2 shots, makes both of them. Tyler Betsy, 3 shots off the bench. Calvin Russell got in there and put up 3 shots at the very end. But Nate King should not be attempting 14 less shots than J.J. Starling. And it feels like those are your main guys in terms of the ISO, late shot clock, Freeman, Starling, George. I mean, they're basically attempting all your shots there. We've got 8, 11, 13 shots besides George, Starling, and Freeman in this game. And I understand Donnie. I mean, Donnie going for 9 for 18, that's good. I'm fine with that production, that volume. But George attempting 12, Starling attempting 19. and just some head scratchers there from those two in particular. Let's go next to Jason in Baltimore. We'll get one more in before our next break here on the Burdick Postgame Show. Jason in Baltimore, what's on your mind?
Oh, Tim.
Tough one.
This team, man, it's depressing watching this team play. You'd think from your senior guard you would get more leadership. Our guards are just so inconsistent and flat out just bad. You can't have your guard – you need to be guard-driven to win now, and our guards are bad. And one thing I've noticed, JJ's seemingly gotten worse every year. Carlos, I watched all his film. He played against Duke. He played against decent teams before he came here. He was awful. And now Nate George, he comes here and he's awful. What is the common denominator? Well, we're being coached by Red Autry. I'm not going to get into ripping Red or anything. I've done that on the show before, but something needs to change. They were in this game in the first half. I think it was a 2-point game with about 18 minutes to go, and then it all fell apart. And I think they went on like a 40-19 run or something like that, and the game was over. Red can't adjust in the second half, where they have trouble rebounding out of the zone. I don't even know why they went to the zone versus this team. They're a good 3-point shooting team. As soon as they went to the zone, they just got destroyed again because they couldn't rebound. They actually got them to miss, but they would just rebound it and keep shooting till they made it. And if that's how you're going to play defense, you can't play that defense. Yeah. Because you're going to give up points on every possession. And so I don't know what to say, man. It's depressing. There's only, I think, counting the ACC tournament, like 12 more games left, and then we'll all get to figure out what the next move is. But it's been years of this, and I think the fan base is just fed up and wants it all to end and wants something to be positive about. Nobody wants to. I don't want to come on here and complain. I want to get back to winning.
I hear you.
So,
all right, Jason.
Keep up the great work, Tim. I've always appreciated the work you do, even when you were here for the short time with Masson. So I love what you do, brother. Keep it up.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Jason in Baltimore. He got 9 inches of snow, I think, recently. We hope everyone is all good with the winter storm going on right now. All right, we'll take another break. We'll get back to more of your phone calls because I know a lot of you have not gotten a chance to call in yet. We will give you that platform. We'll give you that opportunity to vent. Just one quick point on Jason and his overall point on the backcourt. The fact that he gets on here and he is 100% right, and Jason says the backcourt was bad tonight. Again, that is just hard to fathom that we've gotten to that point, because this backcourt is bad in the worst way. It is a high-priced backcourt, we're assuming, and based on what we know, they spent a lot of money on J.J. Starling, and they spent a lot of money on Nathan George. And by all accounts, those are two players that everyone in the ACC would want. J.J. Starling was an all-ACC preseason selection. Whether he should have been or not, probably not, clearly. But regardless, there's talent in the backcourt, and we're still saying the backcourt was bad tonight. That can't be a thing. That has to fall on the coaching some. The other point that I said from the outset of the roster construction, you don't have enough shooting in the backcourt, and we're really seeing that the way it played out tonight. Starling 2 for 6 from 3, and it just feels like max he's going to make 1 or 2 threes a game on high volume, and he's only going to take open looks, and the defense is perfectly content with him shooting 15 feet and beyond. And that is a gift to a defense right now from your starting 2 guard, who I'm sure is making a lot of money. And Nathan George makes head-scratching turnovers, can't really dissect things in the open court in transition, misses some bunnies, he's indecisive, he's lost his confidence, and he's struggling to shoot, too, which we knew was probably going to be a problem. And it just feels like right now, the backcourt being a quote-unquote bad backcourt in some games, or at the bare minimum inconsistent and frustrating and tough to watch at times, is a huge indictment on what we're seeing from the coaching staff, because that should not have been a problem. It's one thing if a problem that we thought was going to be a problem going into the season is at the top of the list. The backcourt being bad is inexcusable. The backcourt putting together J.J. Starling and Nathan George putting together a game combined like what we saw tonight is inexcusable. NC State's a good team. NC State's trying to win. NC State's going to win a whole lot of other games. It's inexcusable that Syracuse is getting this type of production and has this many flaws in their starting backcourt right now. They spent too much money on it, and it was supposed to be a strength of the team. Back to your phone calls after this. We'll get to Vito and Chris if you wait, and we do have one spot open at 315-437-7644. You're listening to the Burdick Postgame Show.
This is...
What else we got going on in the chat? Yeah, let's go hire Seth Greenberg. Cool. Good idea. No, that's not the answer. The ACC tournament is, potentially in more jeopardy than we were ever considering. I think Red's got fire, guys. I think he's not getting across his message. It's almost like his fire is very negative and very like, oh, why is this happening again? Instead of like channeling that and portraying a little bit more positivity. Yeah, it's lax season. No doubt. Oh, Notre Dame's going to win right before they play us, Mike? That'd be great. Or I guess, I don't know. Maybe it's just shows you that that's going to be a tougher game than we probably realize. I mean, the program's not irrelevant, but, it's not irrelevant if we've got this many people complaining. It's irrelevant when no one cares to watch and we've, reached like the way Syracuse football was bad for 15 plus years. Then it got to that point. But, the next hire, if it is someone outside the family or whatever they decide to do, like, they've got to get it right to keep things from really falling apart. I mean, you're saying that, Michael Antonio, but you're watching still. I don't know. I don't think they've, like, totally lost their fan base. I mean, the fan base is obviously, there's a portion of your fair weather fans that are like, I'm not going to be watching. But if they made a good hire and they got it back on track, people would jump back in. Yeah, let's hope we don't get to that point. Freebird Orange.
Famous last words. I haven't cut red from TK yet because I have a feeling we're going to run so long we'll have time to run.
Oh, it'll go on YouTube?
I would guess, although he took a little bit.
Yeah.
Also, I love everybody who
Any
watches.
comments come out or anything that you saw?
There have been some comments. I can throw them up in front of you, but since the phone lines have been
let's just... I'll go these three and whoever else break, and then maybe that'll be our final segment. I don't know. I mean, yeah, you make the call. Yeah,
there are like 250 people watching this mess.
Yeah.
YouTube numbers are crazy tonight.
I know the YouTube's been killing it for the post-game shows. I love it. Should pay attention to the YouTube chat more.
They're booling.
Program is just not a destination program anymore. Field is 68 said it was the sixth best job in the ACC, and that feels about right. Or that was their anonymous poll. I don't know about Jason Hart. Again, I think outside the family is probably the move. Yeah, Donnie doesn't seem like he's coming back. You're probably going to lose him. I guess you hope Kyan comes back because, I can't imagine Kyan playing for someone else.
Oh, I'm wrong thing.
What are you looking for? Oh, thank you. Yeah, Donnie hasn't been great in the last 3 games, but he played well tonight. to the King D. Syracuse needs to start fresh and move on. If it keeps going like this, they will move on. That's pretty clear, guys. So even though it feels like you should do it right this minute, that's not the answer. Like, you'll get your wish eventually, and it doesn't matter if they wait until the end of the season. That's just what you should do.
This is the Burdick Lexus and Burdick BMW postgame show.
We continue on the postgame show. NC State wallops the Cuse in the second half, beat them by 20. Syracuse never led in this game. They hung around a lot of the first half. They were down by 4 at halftime, but another inevitable second half collapse of some sort from Syracuse, and Donnie Freeman played well. He had a double-double. Outside of that, head-scratching, bad game from Nathan George, 2 for 12 from the floor. J.J. Starling, some good to sort of salvage his stat line at the end of the game or kind of midway point of the second half onward. But all in all, not a very good game from him, and not a lot of positives, again, for Syracuse basketball as they continue to struggle and they continue to seem like a team that has had their confidence completely shaken. And at this point, the season is completely reeling and crumbling in front of our eyes right now. And we are taking all of your phone calls here on our Massage MV hotline. Let's see. We're going to go to Chris in Syracuse, who is next up. Then we'll get to Vito right after that. Chris, what were your thoughts on the game?
Hey, Tim. How's it going? Why does West Africa keep on playing Starling? He can't shoot. Maybe we should play Anthony run the point and have, I don't know, Betsy come off and then have Freeman. They got to do something different with the lineup. That's not working. This team remind me of the football team. Any bad defense like SU makes any bad offensive team, the opponents look good.
Yeah, they struggle against good defenses or adequate defenses for sure to score.
Well, yeah, the only thing they can say is try to say the only thing they can prove is their free throws, nothing else as far as the season goes along. That's pretty sad to say. No defense, no rebounding, no sloppy turnovers and whatnot. So, I don't know, but hopefully at least run the point even for a few minutes. Have see Anthony can make it a lot better, smoother, and have starting.
Cayenne at the point? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's better than what this point, because he started can't shoot. He can't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, Chris, I hear you. I mean, I think the tough thing, we'll let Chris go, and we appreciate all of you for calling in here. We do have one spot available now at 315-437-7644. The tough thing is we had someone call in earlier and say JJ should be running the point more. Now we're getting JJ shouldn't be out there and Kyan should be running the point. I think this is speaking to a larger problem that no matter who is Syracuse's backcourt, it's not good enough right now. And that felt the same way last year, and it feels that way this year when they've had better talent. So some of this does come down to, I'm not trying to run away from it or like some of you believe that I'm ducking the real big issues here or those type of theories. I do think that this is a bigger issue of what are you running on offense a little bit, and why are your talented backcourt players not getting comfortable offensive sets and not producing for you? It doesn't seem like they have any confidence right now. And I don't think that Kyan Anthony at the point guard's the answer. But the problem is, what the heck is the answer when you have three talented backcourt players? We can't be saying who's the best lineup. What do they do? And I'm sure all of you have individual theories, but the idea that there's not a consensus theory and there's not something that has worked night in and night out when we're at this point of the season is the overarching bigger issue right now. So let's keep the phone calls coming. Let's go to Vito, who is in Clay. And Vito, what did you think of the game?
I mean, you stole my thunder with, talking about the horrible guard play. I'm going to say that. If you're starting the team out with Freeman and Kyle, you're like, wow, that's a good team at 4 and 5. But there's just so much uncertainty at 1, 2, and 3. You don't know what you're going to get. You got 9 for 31 combined shooting out of JJ and George. That's unacceptable. That can't happen. There's nobody on this team maybe with the exception of Betsy, that you can, they can catch it off the pass and shoot it and make it. There's nobody else on the team. And, the plus-minus tonight doesn't even tell the story because the worst two on the team, unbelievably, are Freeman and Nate George at -16. So, I think Nate George gets too much time on the court. I called you after the Boston College game. I'm like, it's funny because Boeheim would yank you if you made one mistake. And we're seeing the exact opposite now. We're seeing too much in the other direction. And a case in point was that BC game. I couldn't believe he brought Nate George out to start the overtime.
So let me pause you right there, Vito. So let's just say you want Nathan George out of the starting lineup or you want him playing less. What's the lineup you want? Because I think that's the scary thing here is I agree with you. Like, Nathan George isn't playing good enough to warrant these minutes. But
Correct.
What's better? What's the solution? Because I think that's the part that we fall into the trap of just that's the problem. But then when you actually try and suss it out, there's not really a great solution. So what would you do with the backcourt minutes right now?
Okay, so it was. I'll answer that. It was 55-51 with 11:50 left, and the shooting, the lack of shooting is what lost the game. I mean, I know the fundamentals they gave, offensive or defensive rebounding stinks, but to my point, you need shooting out there at this point, and Nathan George is just not going to cut it. So I think you start Betsy at this point. You have JJ run the point. And that's that. I don't care how much money they're paying these guys. That should not dictate who's going to start, because right now Nate George is losing games. He doesn't shoot well. You need people out there that can shoot. I think when they're going out in the portal, you got to find guys that are pure shooters, because I'm sick and tired of these guys missing. There was one Cayenne 3 wide open.
I know. It's a brick. It's crazy. Yeah.
Unbelievable, man. It's like, damn, we can't catch a break. Nobody can hit a 3 when we need it. And I'm sick of it. And when they hit the portal, whoever the coach is going to be, get us some freaking shooters, man. Pure shooters.
Yeah. I'm with you. I mean, let's just go through it. This is, I think, before the game tonight, the 3-point field goal percentage for the 3 players we're talking about that are your main backcourt minutes. What do you do conversation? Kyan Anthony is shooting 26% from 3. At the start of the year, I probably would have guessed 35%. And I maybe would have understood if he started slow as a freshman, and at this point, he's kind of getting into a groove, a la like Buddy Boeheim or something. 26% from 3 for Kyan. Not good enough. JJ Starling, I said it earlier, he only shoots pretty much the wide open threes. He's hesitant to shoot anything unless he is really open, and he's shooting 31% from 3, 30.8%. You are hoping maybe he'd be in the 35% range, but this is another year of JJ being a very below average 3-point shooter for a starting 2 guard for a team like Syracuse, and I'm sure he's getting a lot of money. And then you've got Nathan George, who is shooting 33.8% from 3. I think that's before tonight. He went 0 for 4 tonight. And I'm totally with Vito. I mean, some of these are just bricks, and it's just frustrating. Like, you got to feel for Autry a little bit when you see a play develop. It's the right play. They're wide open for 3, and they miss. But then you fall back on, well, why aren't we getting looks for Nate Kings and Tyler Betsy more when they are the good shooters? And I get that defenses are trying to stop that, but that's the concerning thing right now is your backcourt is not good enough 3-point shooters in modern college basketball. And some of it is, why is Kyan Anthony this bad? Why is Nathan George not a comfortable 3-point shooter? And why is it happening to all of them at the same time? That's when you sort of point to the coaching and the offense, and you just have to scratch your head and think that that's part of it. Back to the phone lines. We go all the way out to the West Coast to Seattle. We got Michael in Seattle. What's on your mind?
Hey, man. How's it going, man?
Doing well. How are you?
Good, good. So my observation with this team is it's all about the NIL. Syracuse, unfortunately, is on the lowest NIL totem pole for the ACC. And
I think they're middle of the pack, Michael.
Well, we wonder why blue chip talent isn't going to come here. That's the reason. They don't have the money. And you look at Duke, look at North Carolina, they're consistent programs. We're not consistent. We have no consistency in talent. That's the bottom line. That's where we stand.
All right, let it be known that he brought it up, and you all have been very upset at us addressing the NIL conversation. I think Michael's right that the NIL needs to improve for Syracuse basketball to get back to what they were when we all loved watching Syracuse and they were consistently in the tournament. I'll make the point again. This roster is good enough to be an NCAA tournament team. This roster is good enough to probably be like an 8 or a 9 seed, I would say. Now, going into the year, they weren't projected to be that. So that would be kind of, you pair good coaching with the roster. They're an NCAA tournament team. Maybe some of you would argue they could be a 5, 6 seed or better than that. I think there are flaws, and we're addressing the flaws in the backcourt. And like I said, some of these are just open threes that aren't going down, and they're missing bunnies. And some of this is like no coach would be getting this many struggles or see the three-point numbers or the free throw shooting be this bad. You can't blame it all on coaching with some of the stuff that we are seeing. But this roster's good enough to make the tournament. They improved the NIL. I said it earlier. My estimate is they're probably in like the $6.5 million range for this roster. That could be slightly off, but that's kind of what I've gathered, and that's my educated guess. And some of you believe it's way more than that. I would argue against that for sure. I feel pretty confident in saying that. But that's still, 9th in the ACC, 8th in the ACC. You want to be better than that, obviously, when you're a program like Syracuse. I'm sure they're working on it. You can make the point that, well, when they fire the head coach, they will get more NIL, and that will lead to an uptick, and that might very well be the case, and I think that's a fair point to make. But, yeah, the NIL could be a little bit better. At the end of the day, though, we're seeing a talented roster, and we're seeing the coaching staff not get enough out of this talented roster right now, and we're seeing a team that is crumbling in front of our eyes, which is frustrating. Let's go next to Ryan in Boston. Ryan, what's happening?
Hey, Tim. I'm the one who ran into you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So good to see you over the phone now.
Yeah, thanks for calling in, as always.
Of course. I get really frustrated whenever people say, oh, don't blame NIL, and they get upset at you guys for blaming NIL, because at the end of the day, we can't compete with Duke or Louisville or UNC, and we're never going to be fighting for the same. Maybe we'll be fighting for like the same 1 or 2 players. But the reason why I think that Autry is going to get fired, and I think also too, I'm not throwing like haymakers at random people here, but Alex Klein too. I think that we did a really poor job with talent evaluation. I think we really overvalued. I was saying the same thing to Paulie and Steve the other day, but we really overvalued Nate George. We really overvalued J.J. Starling. I mean, Donnie, I think, was probably appropriate, but it's just about the talent evaluation and the monetary evaluation. Do you think is that fair to say?
I think you're fair with that, Ryan, with JJ and Nathan George. I don't think they miss completely on talent evaluation, because you have to give them some credit for William Kyle, who was not playing at his previous school, and Tyler Betsy, who was not playing at his previous school. So they found some diamonds in the rough. I think Nate Kings has been a success. I think Nate Kings, it's reported out there from an Oregon newspaper, he's making $750,000. I would sign up for another year of Nate Kings if that was possible at that price point. I would even pay him a little bit more based on what we know about the climate. So it hasn't been a total whiff on talent evaluation. The other thing that maybe doesn't get talked about enough, and this is kind of in the speculation category, but my understanding is Red felt like he had to keep JJ, because if you lose JJ, then you might have lost Donnie, and then you're almost completely starting over. So he really made it a point, if you listen to what he was saying in the offseason, to say that was our biggest goal, was retaining the talent so that we could keep everything in line. And then they could use JJ and Donnie to recruit the other guys, and they did empower them to go after guys that they like, and Nate Kings to fit the game and make the pieces fit better and all of that. So they had a good theory, and whether they should have given JJ another year or given him the money obviously is an easier question to answer now that we know the shot is regressing more and all those things. it just felt like if you were Red in that situation, he was tied to JJ, and he was thinking, if I lose JJ, I might lose Donnie, and I might be in a whole lot of trouble for the roster I have next year. In hindsight, that may have been the way that they should have gone. And yeah, they probably have overvalued JJ Starling based on how he's been playing lately. But it just feels like you have to weigh like the situation. JJ was coming off a year that he was a guy that could get you 30 points in a game, and it feels like he's not that type of player anymore. And that does come down to coaching a little bit. All right, we've got 2 more callers to get to right now. We do have 1 more spot available. We're obviously going late here tonight. We appreciate all of you watching on YouTube, watching on CuseSportsTalk.com. We'll try and get to some of Adrian Autry's thoughts post-game, and we'll get to more of your phone calls after our final break here on the Burdick post-game show. You're watching on CuseSportsTalk.com, or you're listening to it on ESPN Radio.
This is Orange Nation.
Look at all of you watching on YouTube. Travis Steele, he's a good coach, no doubt. Yeah, I know Kings isn't coming back for anyone. I was saying, like, if you could, I'd sign up for it. Yeah, Shaka's smart. I don't know about that. I actually have been more of a Shaka defender in the past, but I don't think he's the answer. I don't like the press and all that they play. I think that's a little bit better for like a mid-major. Stop with the NIL. There it is. I didn't bring it up. I just answered the question. What do you mean? So is it NIL or this was a potential 5 seed? I never said they were a potential 5 seed. I said they're good enough NIL-wise to make the tournament. A lot of you, if we just, I mean, we were doing that. They were just making the tournament on the bubble year after year or being on the bubble year after year. That's about what their NIL is right now, sadly. So, you know, we want more than that from Syracuse basketball, from the history of the program. That's all I'm saying. But God, I can't do any more NIL talk. I've made that point like 1,000 times, and it still leads to... If we're doing the blame pie, it's more on the coaches than NIL, if that's not clear enough. Forget the number 5 then. You said talent-wise, Turney, correct. That's a huge difference. I was saying, like, they're good enough to be an 8 or a 9 seed. 5 seed is a different leap. 5 seed is like... You've got a very expensive roster, I'd say. Yeah, I mean, they are. I've said that. What do you want me to say, Gaper? They're good enough to make the tournament, and the coaching has been bad this year, really bad, and they need to improve the NIL. That's all I'm saying. 2 things can be true. What? You're the one who's fixated on the number 5 now. I am forgetting the number 5. I'm saying... Yes, I answered your question. I'm dropping the semantics. They're good enough to make the tournament talent-wise. 5 seed is a top 20 team. I don't think they're top 20 in the country good. I never once said NIL is holding them back, but I have made the point that NIL should be better if Syracuse wants to keep up with the ACC. If you want Syracuse to be like it was 10 years ago, which is going to be the case, even if they get a great coach, your ceiling is minimized given that you are probably in the middle of the pack in NIL right now. We can agree on that, right? That's where you lose me. 8 or 9 seed is pretty freaking awesome. If they were an 8 or 9 seed, every year for the next 5 years, people would still be bitching.
Heads up, Red's entire post-game press conference is 2 minutes and 53
Jesus. Jordan just told us that Red's entire press conference is under 3 minutes.
But we have it.
Nice. You want me to go to it after, when you want it?
Whatever you want to do. I mean,
I'll do it on here, right?
Yeah. I would get to any callers who are on, and then I don't.
Yeah.
Honestly, my play would be, if you're gonna keep ripping calls. If you want to play it to end the show and maybe do a quick reaction to it.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Or even if you just want to skate out of here, you can play it to end the show.
And yeah.
Turn the board off if you want to skedaddle.
We'll figure it out, but that's probably a good plan. I don't know what we're arguing at this point, Gaper, honestly. I'm confused. I don't know how many...
Bro, this butt cheeks guy posted the call on his own profile.
Really?
Is the Burdick Lexus and Burdick BMW postgame show.
All right, final segment on the postgame show, and we'll go as late as you want here. We'll take your phone calls. We'll be back at it tomorrow, 12 to 2 on Orange Nation, and then my show drive time will be 5 to 6 tomorrow, 315-437-7644. Always the phone number to call. That is our Massage MV hotline on our Burdick postgame show. We will get you Adrian Autry's full postgame press conference shortly as well. Before we wrap up, Adrian Autry's full postgame press conference, I'm told, is under 3 minutes. So maybe there was something eventful in that, or maybe there were just no more questions and he was very short and cryptic. We'll see once we get to that. Let's go back to the phone lines. We start in Colorado, where we have Rico joining us from Colorado. Hey, Rico.
That's interesting. You just mentioned the Autry press conference is 3 minutes. That made me chuckle.
Yeah, that's not a good sign, I would say.
No. I have 2 quick points to make. I called you for the first time last week from Colorado, and when I called you, I just want to say that I'm thankful for the criticism that you're giving J.J. Starling, because what I was saying last week was, coming out of high school, this guy's a McDonald's All-American, one of the top shooting guards, and that a lot of people thought he was 1 and done, maybe 2 and done, yet he's here his senior year, and I'm like, his game is completely fell off the map. So thank you so much for the criticism, because I thought he was getting somewhat of a pass, but you guys are really on him tonight. So that's my first point. My second point is, I honestly wasn't high. Syracuse is my favorite basketball team, but I wasn't high on them this year coming into the season. I thought a lot of guys was overrated. When I sat back and looked at the roster, top to bottom, and I said, okay, who scares you on this team? Like, who's the big difference maker? I said, well, it could be maybe Donnie Freeman if he comes back healthy and his game is actually what it was hyped up to be. But then I looked at everybody else, and I was like, I just don't see anybody who puts fear in you on the court. So I didn't think that they were going to have a great season. I hope that they can turn it around. I don't think so, and it's probably time for a new coaching search. So that's it.
All right, Rico. Good stuff. I appreciate you calling back in. We appreciate anyone who is a recent first-time caller, recent first-time listener, and we've got a lot of you right now following along on our simulcast on YouTube and QSportsTalk.com. So appreciate all of you that are calling in as well. Let's go next to Pat in Syracuse. And Pat, I was waiting for you to call. It took you a little bit. Were you watching the entire game tonight?
What do you think?
Well, I mean, you've said in the past that I think it was last game, you were like, I didn't even bother watching the first half. I had better things to do. So I didn't know.
Yeah,
maybe you were busy. That's all I was saying.
No, that's fair. I actually was busy, but I did watch it, with the DVR.
Gotcha.
Just brutal. First of all, it's funny you asked me, and the reason I was laughing wasn't because it was a silly question, but because I was thinking of Jason Spears, who called you earlier, and he's a great follow on Twitter. And I enjoy listening to him on the Spaces, and his takes are real strong, and I couldn't agree with him more with a lot of the things he says about Red. But I got two separate topics. The first one, simple. The reason the NIL thing is a hot topic is first of all, I can send you the link. We're 6th in the NIL in the ACC.
What link is that?
We're 6th.
I don't.
I'll send it to you on Twitter. I found it. Somebody had it. Now I don't know if it's official, but from
that's what I'm saying. Don't believe everything you see. Yeah.
Right, but it looks good. Well, you can even break it down. I mean, you had to overpay to get Nate George. So
So I don't know what your estimate is on him, but you definitely overpaid for him.
I don't think it's $2 million, which some people are saying that online like it's fact. Yeah, that's not what it is. But he's an expensive player. Yeah.
You had to overpay for him because Carolina had more and they passed on him, so you had to overpay. But the whole point is, you are not speaking about NIL. The reason why it's frustrating about NIL, when I say you, I don't mean you personally, Tim. What I'm saying is when people use NIL as an excuse, there's plenty of teams having much better seasons with much better run offenses and defenses and substitution patterns and plans and accountability with much less NIL. I know you agree for the most part because, like you said, this is an 8 or 9 seed. Okay.
Yeah, you agree with that? The talent? You think that's fair? Yeah.
I think that last caller, he sounds like a great guy. He sounds like he'd be somebody cool to hang out with and watch a game with. But I disagree with everything he said. I mean, Kyle has overexceeded expectations. Donnie Freeman is an NBA player who sometimes plays like a top 15 pick, and then sometimes he plays like a second rounder at best. And that's the consistency that we're speaking about. And some of that has to do with what we're running and what we're doing, and just it's no fun when you're losing. And some kids can play better when they're losing, and most kids can't. The bigger piece too is he didn't even talk about Sadiq White. He's a top 30 recruit. Okay, I heard somebody on your airway saying something stupid like he was top 50 or top 100. No, he's a top 30 recruit. Anthony is. He stinks on defense and he doesn't know how to pass the ball, but he's a scorer and he's a 3-level scorer, and he was shooting well when JJ was out, and JJ came back and he's been a shell of himself, and he had a good game the last game, and then whatever. But my bigger point is Autry was a Band-Aid. You hired him. He was the associate head coach, but Tim, do you think every time the associate, I don't know how long he was the associate head coach. I have to go back and look, but like I said, the only reason he was the associate head coach
since Hopkins left, right?
Yeah. It was the whole Hopkins thing. So to me, the whole thing stems to, like Dro said, Boeheim should have left. Definitely, he should have left twice, but the first time he should have left could have been when Hopkins ended up taking that job and after the Mississippi game in the NIT. So that was the beginning of the demise right there. That was the beginning of the demise. Then the university 100% wanted him and hoped that after Jimmy Boeheim left, they thought Jim would leave. And Jim stuck it to everybody in that last press conference. You go back and rewatch it, and you look at the vein in how he said what he said. I'll be back next year. That was an FU type. I'll be back next year.
Well, he had a good recruiting class too, right? So in theory, I think that led to him staying, maybe.
Right, but if you look at the body language and the disdain and how he made that last comment, that told me everything I needed to know about the dynamics behind the scenes. Then you go back to his last press conference as coach. He told Donna Ditota, "You're asking the wrong guy." What does that mean to you?
He felt like he should have more say in everything, maybe? Is that what you're getting at?
No, it's super cut and dry. He was saying, Donna asked him, about his status for next year. And he basically was saying, "You're asking the wrong guy," meaning it's not up to me. And,
he said it's up to the university like 5 times in that presser.
But along these lines is as great of a coach as Boeheim was and as critical as I was of him, and rightfully so, because the last 4 years he was a shell of himself. Period. And he even said it himself that he knew, after he said that Georgia Tech game when they got smoked by a god-awful team, he knew it right then and there. The bottom line is he did not evolve with the NIL, and a lot of these coaches haven't. So my whole thing is you have to start from ground zero. And what is there to gain between now and the rest of the year but radio talk and talk show talk? And you have a job to do, and you have a station that you work for and all that. I get all that, but there's nothing left for anybody to give two flying hoots about. Like what
good job not cursing. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, literally, like there's nothing to build on.
Like, there's so many unknowns. What is there to build on?
No, I'm with you. I hear you. I'm agreeing with a lot of what you're saying. I would like you to send me that link of 6th in the NIL because that's not my understanding. But we don't have to get into the NIL conversation again. Yeah. Let's focus on what you're saying. And I really don't want to rehash the end of Boeheim either that much. To me, the end of Boeheim, it felt like he was
very relevant, though.
Yeah, sure. I mean? It is relevant. Yeah. My take on it is he was trying to have a year, and I don't know this for sure. I don't want to like put thoughts in his mind or misquote him, but my feeling is he was trying to have a year that would get the program from, it was declining gradually. He wanted to see them just like have a little bit of a spike, and then maybe he would have left. Almost like you're sitting at the blackjack table and you're down 300, you're down 400. You're like, let me just like win a little bit of it back, and maybe then I'll leave. That's how it felt, and I think he got that big recruiting class. He told them he would coach them, and that gave him some encouragement to come back for another year, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the end of the day, this is a tournament roster. You can make all the excuses you want. It starts with who's driving the bus. And I said it last year, and I know, I don't know. I really don't like a lot of what the Locked On Syracuse guy says, but man, he does make a lot of sense about one point. If you did let Red go, which was number one is not going to happen, and number two, I'm not saying it should, but the interesting piece, even if you disagree with them, is it would relieve a lot of tension. It's not going to solve anything, and it would be even more of a train wreck.
Is like you cannot let him go unless you confidently believe this team would start playing way better.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but I think the one point that he made that's so interesting is it would at least release that tension, like, and maybe give you a message that, you know what, we do have an orange standard. And I mean, I think that Hofstra loss was a terminable offense. That team is awful. I think they lost again tonight. They
were playing better at the time. Yeah, I hear you. It was a terrible loss. I would also counter and say, I think if you let him go, then the wheels just completely come off, maybe, because
Who cares though? Like what does it matter? Like if
I think it matters. You don't want to have that reputation as a school. You want to do right
what Louisville did. Now I know Louisville has more resources. You don't need to rehash that with me because I agreed with you.
I wasn't even going to say that. I just think Louisville went from. I mean, he's not as bad as Kenny Payne. Can we admit that? Like. Kenny Payne was as bad as it gets.
Do you remember what Louisville's record was? Like does it matter that year they stunk? Does it matter? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but also
it makes no difference.
Does it matter if it's not going? If there's really like very little chance of it improving things, does it matter to do it? I think you should do right by a great alum who has given it his all. It hasn't worked out.
Fair. And I actually said that too.
Yeah, and I think that's the things you have to be considering. In this moment right now, it feels like everything is falling apart and it feels like someone should pay for this. But you're making the point that it doesn't really matter how the season ends from here. And if you truly believe that, why go and fire him if it's not going to change anything, probably?
It would relieve the tension and maybe just start the next chapter. That's all.
Yep. All right, Pat. Good stuff. As always, that's Pat in Syracuse. Let's go to Michael in Manlius, who is next up on the phone lines. And then we'll get to one more call from Raleigh, a guy who was at the game. We'll get to you right after this one. Michael in Manlius, what do you got? You got to give us some positivity here, Michael.
All right. My positivity is going to come in a strange way, though. I'm going to say that a lot of these callers, it sounds to me almost like a scramble drill. You got, spaced out Rico in Colorado. You got pissed off Pat, who's like a co-host, I guess. And you got like people calling in who claim to be SU fans, and they don't know the first thing about SU. It's out of this world, Tim. You ask me any question. I'm an SU fan. Ask me any question about SU.
What would you change right now? How would you fix things, Michael?
I'd start from the ground up. I'm just going to tell you my honest opinion. The culture here at the Syracuse University has become stagnant, and it's nobody's fault. I'm going to say that one more time. I've said this over and over again on these airwaves. It's nobody's fault on this team or on the coaching staff. It's a problem inherited, and if it were up to me, I honestly would start from the ground up, start with a new everything. I'm not trying to be bonkers here, but that's what I would do.
It feels like they need a fresh start a little bit, so I hear you.
Amen, Tim.
All right, Mike. Good stuff. Thanks, Michael and Manlius. And then let's go to Raleigh, someone who was at the game. We got Chaz in Raleigh. Chaz, thanks for calling in. And what were your takes on being there in person?
Much different body language than the last time they came to Raleigh when Chris Bell dropped 8 threes.
Yeah, they had won 3 in a row down there. I don't know how many of them you went to, but there were good vibes the last couple trips to Raleigh.
I saw that Chris Bell game, and that was exciting, but much different vibe, much different body language. And I just got to say that Quadir Copeland is a superstar in Raleigh. People love him here down here in North Carolina. So we let that one go, and I'm worried about what happens when we play Cal with Chris Bell. But I agree that we shouldn't let Red give him the chance to go out gracefully, and let's just rebuild the next year.
Yeah. Anything else you want to get off your chest? I think that's well said, though.
No, I appreciate you taking my call. Keep the good stuff. Thank you.
Okay. And that's Chaz in Raleigh, who was at the game. Quadir Copeland dropped 25 for Syracuse last time they played at Lenovo Center in Raleigh. Chris Bell did have that 8 3-pointer game, 26 points, 8 threes in the first half, didn't attempt a 3 in the second half. Draymond Green was yelling about it, if you remember that. And the Orange won by 4. They had won 4 of the last 5 in Raleigh, going back to the John Gillen game when he went for 43 in an overtime win. It was anything but that tonight. It was a 20-point L. Before we wrap up, let's go to Adrian Autry's full post-game press conference, which is not very lengthy. It's probably shorter than plenty of your calls tonight. But here is what Coach Autry had to say after this one tonight.
First, I'll give NC State credit. Thought they did a good job of finishing and taking advantage of our breakdowns. I thought the first half our guys fought. The second half, too many breakdowns, and they made us pay every time. Too many defensive breakdowns, not finishing possessions, rebounds, and not even finishing on the offensive end. I just thought they capitalized on every mistake, and in this league, you can't do that. You know, these teams are too good, and we dug ourselves a hole and we couldn't get out of it. You know, we got to keep fighting, getting back, watching film, and trying to get better and get prepared for the next game. Questions?
Adrian, what were you trying to do with Quadir today?
We were trying to guard him, try to make it difficult for him. And obviously, I think, he's probably, playing at an all-conference level right now. He's a lot to handle, 6'6" guard that can move, wiggle, see over defense, and see over traps. You try to force him different places. He's used to that. He's the main guy on the scouting report. And I just, again, we were trying to, slow him down a little bit. But, this is a talented team, so he's just not, he has pieces and weapons. And, the biggest thing that Quadir does is he gets people involved.
Adrian, aside from Quadir, what else were the problems on defense in trying to slow this team down? It seems they got a lot of straight line drives, and they shot a really high percentage. Yeah,
our guards didn't do a good job of keeping people in front. I didn't think I would, put a lot of pressure on our front court. I thought our rotations, again, we had a lot of breakdowns, and a lot of that was due to not being able to keep the ball in front. I thought we did a good job of taking their three-point shooters and keeping those guys in check. But, keeping the ball in front, fundamentally, we did a horrific job today.
Coach, Sadiq White had 4 fouls in less than 10 minutes. What went into the decision to keep him in the ball game?
He was the only one that was trying. I thought he did a decent enough job, and I'm not trying. I thought he did a decent enough job to to keep some length on Williams and Quadir, But he was a guy, once he, a guy that gets to 4 fouls, you just hopefully he can play long enough and see what he can give us.
And is that part of why you emptied your bench at the end? That lack of trying down the stretch?
The game had been settled, and I wanted to look at Bryce, these other guys to see what I have. Obviously, we're struggling right now, so I'm trying to look for some different things. So there was a chance for me to put those guys in and see what they would do, because we can't continue moving on this way. We got to look at everything. We got to look at everything. Everything is on the table now.
All right. that was Coach Autry. That was all of 2 minutes and 40-something seconds. Very quick post-game press conference. Didn't get a lot of questions there. And anytime we get you Adrian Autry on our post-game show, it's brought to you by RomanoCars.com. Shop today at RomanoCars.com. All right, that will put a bow on everything for the post-game show, and we'll be back at it tomorrow. Orange Nation 12 to 2, and we will also chat with you on drive time from 5 to 6 p.m., and we'll keep it on rolling here. The sun's going to come up tomorrow, and we'll still be here to hash out any of your issues around Syracuse basketball, take your phone calls, and talk about what's going on right now. One thing that stood out there, kind of weird to me that Red says Sadiq is the only one that's trying, and then he gets into, no, actually, I shouldn't have said that, and sort of backpedals. But he does need to change something up dramatically with the rotation, I would say, right now. And it seems like he's sort of teasing that. I would be all for a different starting lineup. I'd be all for just something different in the next game. And they're going to be playing Notre Dame on Saturday. And if you lose that, they could be staring a 7-game losing streak in the face. Right now, it is a 4-game skid for the Cuse. Thanks to all of you for following along on CuseSportsTalk.com, on our YouTube simulcast. Thanks to all of you who are listening on the podcast feed the next day. That's an option as well. Thanks to everyone that called in. This is frustrating times, but we do appreciate all of you for tuning in and making these shows a little bit more bearable and a little bit more fun right now to hear from all of you and know that we're getting our message out there to a lot of you angry Syracuse fans right now. At least makes it a little bit easier. So appreciate all of you. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you tomorrow, Orange Nation 12 to 2. Thanks for watching on CuseSportsTalk.com, and thanks for listening on ESPN Radio.
Did you miss Drive?